Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Space 2024. And I'm very happy to welcome Miss Amber Laan, which is a grower in the Netherlands. And she will, we will have a portrait or a view of Dutch agriculture, and especially regarding young growers. Miss Amber Laan, you are a grower, 28 years old. You are in a so-called small farm in dairy production. You have 75 cows and you are growing 65 hectares. You are part of a union called HAGK.
Yes.
In French, we call it GenAgriculture. You are the president, regional president of provinces in Netherlands, North Holland, South Holland, and Utrecht provinces. And you are board member of the national organization. And you are not alone in agriculture because you have family members in New Zealand and Ireland also.
Yes.
And you are not only grower, you're also working as a consultant on sustainability, not with growers, but with food industry and agricultural companies. Welcome to this Space Trade Fair, Amber.
Thank you very much.
Amber, first question, how did you come to agriculture?
Well, I come from a dairy farm myself, so my parents had a dairy farm. At first, I didn't want to be a farmer myself because I thought it's working all the time, all the responsibilities. But then I studied in Wageningen University, and then I found out talking about better agriculture, sustainable agriculture is one thing, but doing it, putting my knowledge into practice at our family farm is even more fulfilling and sometimes a bit more complex than only talking about it. So I talked to my parents and said maybe I can join the family farm, and it worked out.
Okay. So you came to agriculture through sustainability. You say there is something to do in that area, and you say why not applying that in family farm?
Yeah, that's true. So in Wageningen, it was not only about agricultural practices, but a lot about environmental issues, animal welfare issues. And I have a dairy farm myself, so I grew up on it. And I found out that coping with these issues or handling these issues on the farm is not as easy as talking about it. So that's why I got involved.
Put it in practice.
Yeah.
Could you explain us what is this union called HAGK? Called GenAgriculture in France. How does it work? How is it organized, animated?
Yeah, so the Young Farmers Association, we have like very regional unions where people mostly drink beer, look at nice cows, come together and talk about agriculture. But then on a regional level, we talk to provinces about the agricultural policy, about environmental issues and how they can support us as young farmers. And on a national level, we of course talk with the Brussels part, so CESA, or with the Ministry of Agriculture in the Netherlands about the developments for young farmers in the Netherlands. Because being a farmer is not that easy, I think, anymore in these times. And we represent around 8,000 young farmers in the Netherlands.
Are you also handling or managing some communication actions regarding Dutch citizens or consumers? Is it part also of the job of this association?
I think, of course, we have to do that because we have societal issues. The society thinks something of young farmers or farmer development, so we have to involve them, but also tell them what we are doing, the challenges we have. So, of course, communication is part of that.
Okay, so it's part of your job. And what did you notice? You are young, you're part of this new young generation. What are the changes we can see compared, your father's generation?
Well, of course, the environmental issues are on the farm coming together, water quality, biodiversity, and climate. Yeah. So I think these are the main challenges, apart from being financially stable and especially combining those two. Yeah. So taking into account the environmental issues with being financially healthy as a young farmer, that's the most urgent challenge. And I think when we look at the past, some things might have been a bit more easy, just being very productive, very efficient, but now you need to take into account the society. Yes.
And yeah, as you like it or love it, it's obvious for you to do this. Question about land price, because we see that you are hectares are not that many to sell, to buy. Is it an issue for young generation to get access to fields, especially when you are not part of a family farm?
Yeah, so the Netherlands is quite a small country, so we see a lot of pressure on land, also not only in agriculture, but with housing or with nature. So the land prices are quite high. So if you're not involved in a family farm, you need a lot of credit to buy, and people will not give you that because you cannot really get the revenue out of it. But also I think the mobility of land and being able to get more land as a young farmer for an attractive price is quite difficult now. Which is quite difficult because we need some extensivation. The government is heading towards that. Yes, so access to land is really difficult.
Yeah, it's one of the issues you have to face as part of your association as well. We've heard about new regulations in Netherlands regarding agriculture. We heard rumors, ideas. It seems that now it has been announced. What are the key changes for farmers, especially when farmers are changing hands?
Yeah, so the new policy that are just announced in the Netherlands is about livestock and livestock numbers. So, for example, if I sell you my dairy farm, you can only have 70% of the amount of animals that I had, and they will take away 30% of the amount of animals. They will do that in pig farming and poultry as well, just to reduce the livestock numbers in the Netherlands. And that just has been announced a week ago, so that's very recent.
I heard also that there could be some move in fields saying that you have too intensive area close to cities and you're invited, I don't know how to say it, but you're invited to move to another part of Netherlands or abroad or in some other countries. Is this happening?
Yes, so that's happening. We have some nature areas, protected nature areas. Okay. Sometimes there are farms near them, and they say to the farmers that are near nature areas, could you please quit your farm or maybe move to another area that has less protected nature? Okay. So, of course, this has some impact on the young farmers that are near those areas. And we think as a Young Farmers Association that it's also suitable to stay in that place, but to change your farm a bit. But of course, you need some support from the government, not only saying, can you quit or move, but help me maybe transform my farm in a bit.
Do you consider that as part of these two changes, you were referring to 30% off in terms of animals, asking to quit or to move? Do you get enough compensation from what you heard from the government? Is it enough? Because we see that economical situation could be harder due to these changes. What are the financial compensation you have heard about?
I don't really know all about it. I think if you're quitting, then it can be financially attractive. Of course, we are the representation of young farmers that don't want to quit,
exactly.
So it's not attractive for us. And we are really looking for more towards support in the business model of staying a farmer. So, for example, ecosystem services. If you do a lot for biodiversity, it's for everybody to enjoy. So why not pay for that with government money?
Okay. Yeah. We have the same discussion in France for all these environmental services that should be paid by. We see in France an issue regarding agriculture attractivity. Do you have the same issue in Netherlands? Do you miss some young people attracted or interested in agriculture?
Yeah, we see the same in the Netherlands. So getting labor on your farm, for example, is quite difficult for me as a dairy farmer. I have some milkers at my farm, but sometimes they leave or they get them farmed on their own. So it's quite hard to keep them attracted to the farm. And a lot of elderly farmers say, oh, maybe don't follow up on the farm because it's too difficult or the government is not happy with us anymore. So we have the same problem.
Perhaps you should, as being agricultural actors, farmers, are part of the problem, because if they say the job is hard, we don't get enough, you are not attracting that much young people. Aren't farmers part of the problem by saying this? Or should they change their mind, also having more positive communication regarding agriculture on farms?
I think positive communication, of course, will help.
Yeah.
I also think that more technical innovations can help, maybe to replace labor, but also to make it more easy
Yeah,
and more
working conditions also.
more flexible to work on a farm, that you're not always 24/7
Yeah.
being on the farm, looking at the cows, etc. So I think the farmers can also do something about it, but also communication is big part.
Yeah, and when you say that this technology does it, this technologies that will save time, that will better balance professional and personal life, does it apply to all type of farms, or is it more dedicated to big farms? Because we are talking about investments in digital equipments, for example.
Yeah, so what we see in the Netherlands now is that most likely big farms that already have like profit of being big scale, they can invest in the more robotic things, more automatic parts of the farm, and the smaller family farms have difficulty with paying for that, and also the size of the farm is sometimes not big enough to cope with the costs.
Yeah.
So we see that most likely big farms will do that, and then the smaller family farms won't be able to do that.
So it's increasing differences sometimes between big and small farms. What you're saying, yeah? Am I right?
Yeah.
What do you do, or what are, according to you, the best way to communicate towards citizens? Is it by visiting farms, because you have other people talking about agriculture? And what are the type of actions growers or farmers, Dutch farmers, can implement or set up?
I think inviting people to the farm and telling what you are doing and the challenges you face, just as an individual farmer, will help a lot, because people tend to read newspapers, tend to see social media, but not being on the farm themselves and hearing from a farmer what their challenges are. So I think that's really important by communication. I also think, and we just had a shift in the Dutch politics, being proud of farmers, that they work hard for food production, also helps for the sentiment in the society, and can also really help farmers being appreciated or feeling appreciated, and give the society more proudness of the farmers.
When you say this shift, it should be, or it has been a shift?
It has been a shift. So we have a new government since the beginning of summer, and the Farmers Party, the Dutch Farmers Party, is in the Ministry now of Agriculture. So of course,
promoting more agriculture.
Yeah.
Okay, good news for you as a farmer. What about this balance you have to find between producing, gaining money, and environmental protection? How do you balance this? What are the issues regarding this balance between production, profitability, salary income, and environment?
So in the Netherlands, we see especially the nature protected areas. In there, it's getting more difficult just to produce a lot. You need to balance that a bit more.
It's Natura 2000 areas you're referring to? Okay.
And we have a lot. Apparently, we appointed 162. Some other European countries have a bit less. So maybe that's an option.
So but to be discussed.
But on the other hand, I think there are also some areas in the Netherlands that are still very suitable for high and efficient production. But looking at the nature protected areas, we need to involve more biodiversity measurements, climate measurements in the business model of farmers. And of course, the farmers cannot really arrange that alone. So they need help from the agri-food ecosystem, but also sometimes from the government.
Yeah, and in what you say, and we see this in France as well, that environment costs are consumers ready to pay more, and are politicians ready to pay for that? As you said before, I'm not sure. But what about consumers? Are they ready to pay more, to have a Dutch production, taking into account these numerous Natura 2000 areas, or not? Is it an issue?
I am hoping that it will increase, but realistically, we don't really see a big shift coming from. Of course, people buy more sustainable products, but it's like a very slow increase. And what we saw, for example, in the inflation dip around last year, we see that people tend to buy the more cheaper products in the supermarket.
Due to inflation.
Yes, and of course, people that produce with a higher cost price, they don't get the money because the products aren't sold. So of course we want to encourage consumers as well. Practice what you preach. If you want something for sustainability, then pay for it.
You should pay a bit more for that.
Yeah.
One question, Amber. When you are talking about these changes, biodiversity, environmental practices, we are talking about a long time. Isn't it an issue having these politicians having a short time in mind, consumer having a short time in mind? Shouldn't we have a long-term approach on this, on investment over years, on slowly increasing, but over a long period being able to compensate? Isn't it an issue this time or this time slot?
Yes, I think it's a very big issue. Of course, politicians are only there for sometimes 4 years or even less, so they want to profile themselves in the 4 years. But as a farmer, we make investments for at least 20 years, so we need to have some security. Of course, not everybody can give 100% security, but some. That the route that I'm taking is future-proof. And it would be helpful. Of course, we now have the strategic dialogue in Europe, that also in the Netherlands, for example, we have a bit more of a long-term vision on what agriculture do we want, what products do we want, and what food system do we want.
Do you have systems of 5 years agreements with politicians on that to make these transitions, or do you have this type of long-term agreements? Does it exist in the Netherlands?
No, we don't have any long-term agreements. We only have the goals. So, for example, of course, we have climate net zero in 2050, the Paris Agreement, but it's not translated towards goals in the Netherlands, for example, discussed together with farmers.
Okay, so we see that there is a gap there. In order to finish with a positive message, what are the positive signals regarding transmission, new generations? Are there opportunities in front of us? What is your opinion about that?
Well, of course there are opportunities, because why am I a farmer, a young farmer? Why did I step in? Because I think I'm part of the solution. We face many challenges, but we also need creativity and energy, and the young farmers are energy and creativity. So we are the perfect group, young farmers, to step in and be the next generation of farmers. Sometimes we just need a little bit more support from the government, from agri-food ecosystem, but we are here and we are ready for the future. So help us a little bit and make our dreams come true.
A new association as a collective action, is it also bringing you some energy up?
Of course. Sometimes we have a bit of frustrating discussions with politicians, but we together stand there and we think about the future for the long term. And we think, okay, what's necessary to bring us there? And we make it very concrete, and we sometimes ask for it, and sometimes it works.
Stronger together. Thank you very much, Amber, and I wish you a very nice Space Trade Fair.
Thank you very much. Thank you.